Okay. Take him outside. Yeah, it looks like a tick maybe. Yeah, take him outside. Thank you.
Well, I'm very, very happy today to welcome Reverend Boucholon. He comes to us through our friends at the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. And he describes himself as a Zen monk. He's the guiding teacher at Flying Cloud Zen and involved in interfaith initiatives and programs, the Aslan Institute, and he has a forthcoming book on Hakuin. So anyway, I'd like to welcome you here and thank you again for coming to give us a Dharma talk. We'll start with an opening chant.
Call and response. The Dharma is vast and subtle.
The Dharma is vast and subtle.
We now have a chance to see this.
We now have a chance to see this.
Study this and practice this.
Study this and practice this.
May we realize this true meaning.
May we realize this true meaning.
All right, is everybody able to hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, this is a good volume. Okay. If at some point you can't hear me and you want to, let me know. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Nebraska Zen Center.
Good morning.
Oh, happy Sunday to NZC. And thank you, Pamela, thank you all of the folks behind the scenes who helped make this connection possible. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is always lovely to see other Sanghas and get an opportunity to speak to other communities, especially distant relatives, right? We're all part of the same family tree here, right? Because we're all branches from the Katagiri Roshi. The Katagiri Roshi tree was so lovingly planted in the Midwest all those years ago, right? So I always feel like I'm speaking to relatives when I'm talking to a Katagiri Roshi lineage center, right? So it's all family today. That means you can relax. That's what that means. That means I get to put my foot up on the couch. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. I have a few things I want to say, but you know, the lifespan of the Thus Come One and the beautiful echo that we all offered with the help of the dawn this morning, you know, awakens all the heart parts of me that still feel Katagiri Roshi's presence. I know there are things going on this weekend and last weekend at Ramonji and Hokyoji and Minnesota Zen Center, Flying Cloud, the place I run there. This is the 33rd year of his passing, and so it's a big milestone in our family lineage. And I first came to Zen Buddhism. I first discovered Zen Buddhism about a year and a half after Roshi passed. So I just missed him. I walked in the door of Ganchoji, which is the temple name of Minnesota Zen Center. I walked in the door for the first time, I think in 1992 or 1993, and Roshi passed in 1990, of course. So I just missed him, but I have spent these 30 odd years working very intimately with a lot of his students, obviously his Dharma heirs, including my own teacher. And one of the lovely things, and the reason I think I'm bringing family into the room today, is because I've read the books. I'm assuming you all know of the wonderfully edited and lovingly cared for books of Roshi's transcribed talks by Steve Hagen, our Dharma brother, and our Dharma sister Andrea Martin at MZMC. And it's a lovely way to get inside of the head and inside of the heart of a great Dharma teacher. But family to me always hears like, that story about grandpa and the time he tried to start his car when it was 20 below, and the story takes on its own life and it gets passed and it gets passed and it gets passed. And families all have their own kind of stories, that sort of circulate around the living room during holidays. And one of the great blessings, I think, of my Dharma life has been able to work so closely with people who worked so closely with him, including the many hours I've spent with Tomoe-san, Tomoe Katagiri, his widow, and getting to hear those kinds of stories, the day-to-day stories, the stories about his, how he was with his kids, and the story of, how come in the upper room at MZMC that one outlet is hung so high on the wall. Well, they used to have bunk beds, you see, and they needed a place to plug in the alarm clock. And places, the stories we have around places, and the stories we have around garments, and the stories we have around where he set his shoes. And this is just sort of the kind of stuff that I think knits communities together, right? Our shared stories. And as I'm sure all of you know, Zen Buddhism is a lineage tradition. And so our connection with each other, and our connection to our teachers, and our connection to our teachers' teachers is important. And we, I think, all have a sense, at least some sense, that the reason we're able to do what we're doing today is because something was very carefully, lovingly handed from hand to hand and from heart to heart for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And you're like, oh, this thing that's being handed to me must be of great value to be so intentionally and so lovingly transmitted. So thank you. Thank you, Katagiri Roshi. And thank you, Nebraska Zen Center, right? This is the flame. This is the flame we keep burning. The flame at Nebraska Zen Center is of the very same candle as MZMC, is of the very same candle as Clouds and Water, and St. Paul is of the very same candle as Flying Cloud Zen. So how fortunate we are. How fortunate we are. Okay. I'll give a talk, I promise. So I'll try not to be too long-winded today. It's funny that, I know it's one of the standing jokes in Zen, like we're the quiet religion, and then we just talk and talk and talk and talk. Like, well, I don't know. I mean, Buddhadharma went so far out of his way to go beyond words and letters. And then we're like, oh, hey, we could talk about that for centuries. Like, no, what did I just say? I just got through saying beyond words and letters. Oh, please. But anyway, I will try to be as brief as I can. And I want to start, because of the day that it is, I want to start with one line from Katagiri, and I'm hoping to tie it in to what I had prepared for the day. So the quote I want to offer you from Katagiri Roshi today is a very plain sounding sort of quote, at least it is for me. And I've been quoting this for, 20 years. I usually offer it as part of the introduction to Zazen, introduction to meditation classes that we all receive when we first show up at a Dharma center. We're given instructions on how to sit and how to hold our hands, and what mindfulness of breath is, what mindfulness of body is, what is that? And Katagiri Roshi said, mindfulness is a chosen position of vulnerability. Mindfulness is a chosen position of vulnerability. So I've said that hundreds of times, probably. I say that in secular settings when I'm teaching just mindfulness, right? When I'm not wearing the robe and I'm not doing the Zen thing, and I'm someplace, because we get a lot of requests for that kind of stuff. I'm sure you do too. Like, hey, will you come and teach mindfulness at our school or church or business, whatever? Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to help you. Mindfulness is a chosen position of vulnerability really describes, to me, part of the nature of mind that we're encouraging ourselves to cultivate, right? When we're doing meditation, when we're on the Zafu. But the longer I've sat with that simple sentence, folks, the more light shines through it to me. There's a lot in that line. And that wasn't really what I planned on talking about today. I have something else I'm going to talk about. But at some point, I realized, oh, he's actually saying the same thing that I was going to say today anyway, from a different source. There's something really beautiful about that line, and I really wanted to make sure to bring in at least some of Katagiri Roshi's words today. Mindfulness is a chosen position of vulnerability. So we just got through doing 30 minutes of Zazen before we did our chant and our echo. So as you reflect on that 30 minutes that you just spent tending to, right, taking care of your posture, your breath, what you noticed about your thoughts, where you noticed your attention going, the decision that you made about that attention. Did you want to leave it there? Did you want to move it? What you noticed coming up in your body, sensations, impulses, what you noticed about your emotional landscape. Chosen position. You chose that, right? You chose to come to Zen Center this morning. You chose to be obedient when they rang the bell and not twitch too much for half an hour, right? You chose to do a thing called Zazen. Vulnerability is what's interesting to me. There's a very interesting choice of words there. A chosen position of vulnerability. So I will circle back to this, but I think there's something really profound in that. So I'm just repeating it a lot to kind of plant that seed in your head. If you don't remember anything else from today's talk, that's fine. But if Zen practice, a chosen position of vulnerability, if those words from Katagiri Roshi stay with you, then I would consider this morning a success. Right? I know there's no metrics of success and failure in Zen, but if that's your only takeaway today, Katagiri Roshi said that this thing we're doing is a chosen position of vulnerability. Please let that work on you. Let that kind of just turn around in your heart. My sense is that it has a lot to offer all of us. Okay, so Pamela was kind enough to be taking care of me, emailing me over the past couple of weeks and answering my silly questions and that kind of stuff. And she said, hey, what do you want to call your talk? Sometimes talks are titled and sometimes not. And I thought, oh, a title. Okay, we're going to call it As If Acceptance Were Enough. So we're going to call the talk As If Acceptance Were Enough, and then I'll give you the quote where that comes from. This is from Octavia Butler. If you're a reader, especially if you're a sci-fi reader, you know the name, Octavia Butler. She said, we give lip service to acceptance as though acceptance were enough. I'll read it again. We give lip service to acceptance as though acceptance were enough. Now I'm pulling it out of its context. I'm not talking about the context in which she used it. That idea, that sentence is a beautiful sentence and it could be used in a lot of different contexts. I actually consider those words to be very powerful, even though they are gentle. As though acceptance was enough, as though acceptance is enough. That is powerful to me. Here's why I'm thinking about it today on Sunday, March 6th, 2021. All of us know what has happened on our planet in the past couple of weeks. We know that there's a war that is existing right now that did not exist 12 days ago or however many days ago it was. We also know that as Buddhist practitioners, we are aspiring to exist inside of a tradition that is born in and founded on the principles of nonviolence, right relationship, we call it sometimes, ahimsa, we call it sometimes. We have all heard or are learning that some of the core Buddhist ideas about violence is that it's when I attempt to impose my will on you, when I attempt to impose my will on nature, when I attempt to impose my will even on my own thoughts, that there's a violence to that type of use of power. We also know that central to this tradition, this Dharma light that was passed to us so lovingly by Katagiri Roshi, is the idea that in order to bring peace we must be peace, to quote the great master Thich Nhat Hanh. We lost that light recently. A couple weeks before him, we lost the great light of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. There's a lot changing in this world. Letting the words of these people circle around our hearts and the depth of the teaching of these people circle around our hearts and allow those words to soften us and offer light is really important. To become vulnerable to the wisdom that we're being offered. So this central Buddhist idea, I wish to bring peace. I wish to bring compassion. I wish to bring wisdom. Central Buddhist ideas. I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard 1,000 times. But one of the uniquenesses of this beautiful tradition that we're part of is this really, really, really deep understanding that if you want to bring that honey, you got to be it. In other words, it starts here. And from the very, 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 very beginning, right, when Siddhartha Gautama sat down under a tree, from the very, very, very beginning was this profound insight that if I can't do it here in me, I can't do it there outside of me. That literally, as a human being, I will create from what I am. So what I am is the front lines. That's where the compassion has to be. That's where the wisdom has to start. That's where the peace must exist. I cannot bring that which I do not have. I cannot offer that I am not. To bring peace, we must be peace. So when we are sitting on our black zafus, in between those bells, and we notice our restlessness, how do we meet our restlessness? When we're sitting on our black zafus in between those two bells and we notice our frustration, our boredom, our pain, maybe our loneliness, maybe our grief. How we meet that is the front lines. That's Zen practice. Right relationship, right here. My relationship with my own sadness, my fear. Oh, I'm so scared about what's happening in the Ukraine. I wonder how I will treat my fear when it shows up in my heart. How will I meet that fear? My mind gets so busy. It gets so busy. It goes so fast. All right, I watch how my fear turns into anger. How will I meet that anger? How will I meet that busy mind? Oh, you're spinning up there. I see how you're spinning. Oh, look at you go. Oh, you're trying to make sense of it. Oh, you're trying to solve it. I get it. I understand exactly why you're doing that. I understand exactly why fear is there. That's not a mystery. I understand exactly how that can turn into anger. That also is not a mystery. I've been watching this heart and this mind for a long time, just like you folks. There's nothing new here. But because I'm a Zen student, just like you, I remember my teacher's instruction that he received from his teacher, in this case, Katagiri Roshi, that he got from his teacher, that he got from his teacher, that he got from her teacher, that she got from her teacher, that they got from their teacher, which is, how are you treating that thing that is showing up in your heart right now? Please come back. Don't leave where the work needs to be done. No, 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 no. Don't go away. Right here. How you meet that fear, how you meet that anger, how you meet your doubt, your confusion, your resistance. That's it. That's the choice. I will come back. I will choose to come back. That's going to involve me feeling this. That's going to involve me making a choice, chosen position. That's going to involve me feeling that fear, being right with it, putting my arm around it and going, oh, you're so scared this morning, aren't you? Oh, there's the anger. I feel you. I'm right with you. I've got you. That's a choice. That's a choice. That is an enlightened choice, to use a word from our tradition. The activity of enlightenment, the activity of awakening, is always to rush towards suffering, right? We heard it in the lifespan of the Thus Come One. Like, I thought about taking off, But I realized beings here were really still having a hard time, so I stuck around so I could hang out with them. I'm paraphrasing a little. It's possible that's not a direct quote. It's possible that I'm not remembering that exactly. That's the spirit though. Couldn't you feel the spirit of it? It's so Mahayana, right? The world is on fire. The world is on fire. The world is on fire. You've read the fire sermon. If you haven't, Google the fire sermon and read it. Holy macaroni. The Buddha is describing a world that is on fire. And all of us these days get to look at that and go, yep, yeah, that sounds about right. That doesn't even sound like an exaggeration anymore. This stopped being fun. Actually, this stopped being fun a long time ago, right? Dukkha, the human condition, the first noble truth. So the decision, the choice, Roshi said, chosen position of vulnerability. Will you be vulnerable to? You can't connect to anything unless you choose to be vulnerable to it. You can't be intimate with it unless you choose to be vulnerable. Of course. I mean, of course, right? If I want to shake your hands and feel your soft palm in my soft palm, I gotta take the gloves off. That's how this works. So that's Zazen. Because my anger shows up on the cushion all the time these days. I can't be alone in this. My fear shows up on the cushion. My hurt shows up on this cushion. My busy mind shows up on the cushion. It tells mean stories. It tells victim stories. It tells perpetrating stories. It tells all sorts of stories. It tries to solve problems. It plans escapes. It plans attacks. It just spins. Wow. Suddenly, Zazen has become this incredibly important container. I'm so happy I get to share it with you. Thank goodness we all have this thing. Thank you, teachers. Thank you for offering us this. Thank you, Buddha, for sticking around, according to the myth, right? Because you gave us something. This idea that, oh, do you see all that stuff that you're seeing? Do you see all of it? You're seeing it. You're noticing the tension that shows up in your body. You're noticing the emotions that rise. You're noticing all the thoughts that spin, that help create that emotion. You're noticing it. You're noticing it. Do you realize how profound that is? They are asking us. You are the noticer. Oh my goodness, that must mean you're not those things. That must mean you are not those things. Because if you can notice something, you are not it. Anything you can observe, you are not. Basic Buddhism. If you can observe it, you're not it. Sounds like science, actually, because I'm like, yeah, I guess that's right. If you can observe something, you're not it. This is the beginning of Buddhism. Well, it turns out you can observe your body. You can observe its sensations. Turns out you can observe your emotions. Turns out you can observe your thoughts. Hold on a minute. I thought I was all those things. Can you feel how non-self kind of starts getting in there? Holy macaroni, I can observe a lot of stuff. I guess I'm not any of that. Where's the self now? We're starting to get into that whole thing, right? That's not my talk today. So nevertheless, I appreciate that what is up on the altar, somewhere in that building, somewhere in behind me on my altar, somewhere in every Zen center, are images of compassion, right? The central Mahayana ideal, Prajnaparamita, Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin, whatever we want to call her, whatever manifestation we want to call him, them, doesn't matter. That's our highest ideal in Mahayana. The highest ideal is compassion. So suddenly, when I realize I'm observing suffering, I'm observing the spinning mind, trying to solve a problem it can't, I am noticing waves of anger and frustration and doubt and fear, sometimes even terror, confusion. When I realize I am not those things, then that highest ideal of this ancient and beautiful tradition kicks in and says, now that you know you are not those things, and now that you know what you are bearing witness to right now, Busho, is suffering, what do you do? That becomes a really big moment. And in any given half an hour of Zazen, that moment for me comes up over and over and over, almost this fast. Chosen position of vulnerability. I will see it. I will acknowledge that it is there. And then I'm going to make myself vulnerable to it. Because acceptance isn't enough. The reason Octavia Butler's line hit me so hard, again, taken completely out of her context and into my context, my Buddhist context, is I am so used to teaching Dharma. I'm so used to practicing Dharma. I'm so used to thinking of words in terms of Dharma, just like a lot of us are here, right? And acceptance is a big one. We use that word a lot, as well we should. It's an awesome word. It is an awesome word. You bet we give lip service to it. It is a very good word. I'm thinking of, this isn't really a Zen thing, but a lot of us know it, especially these days, right? In the information age, the RAIN technique, R-A-I-N, that folks like Jack Kornfield and Tara Brach teach. I forget what tradition it actually comes from. It must have been translated into English in order to spell a cool word that we use in English. But this ancient idea of there's a moment of recognition, there's a moment of acceptance, there's a moment of investigation or inquiry, and then there's the always remembering non-identification. I am not that. I am the observer of that. R-A-I-N, recognize, accept, inquire, non-identify. Or nurture, I guess. Sometimes Tara Brach teaches it. Beautiful. That's a fantastic technique. That is a beautiful exercise in the cultivation of mindful awareness. So I teach it a lot. It's not a Zen thing, but so what? I teach it. I think it's really helpful. Arr, so angry. Oh wait, I just recognize that I'm angry. I just stopped being the anger and started being the recognizer. Oh, I recognize what's happening. And then the lowering of defenses against it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to condemn it. I'm just going to stop fighting and go, oh, I accept that you're here, anger. I accept it. I accept it. I'm going to lower my defenses. And then I can inquire about where it comes from, and I can non-identify. R-A-I-N, powerful stuff. Beautiful. And this is why I love Octavia. We give lip service to acceptance. When we are practicing mindfulness, mindfulness is literally defined in our language as non-judgmental awareness or deeply accepting awareness, which is correct. This is a good Dharma teaching. Please do not misunderstand me. This is a Dharma teaching I fully endorse, right? Acceptance gets 5 stars, 2 thumbs up. And because we're playing with language, I love what she says, as though acceptance were enough. I hope something shows up in your heart in response to that. We talk about acceptance as if acceptance were enough. What I do not hear in that is a rejection of acceptance or a refusal of acceptance. Absolutely not. How my heart populates this quote is acceptance is crucial, but it's step 1. Because the Dharma isn't about merely the I will allow you to exist, coexistence. The Dharma is about something else. I hope all of us can feel. When I rush home because I am feeling heartbroken or lonely or wounded or scared, I am not hoping to rush into accepting arms. I am hoping to rush into loving arms. To me, compassion goes beyond acceptance. It includes it, of course. Wisdom includes it, of course, but all of the words that we use in this tradition to describe the enlightened state, the awakened being, the awakened heart, love, frankly, of course they include acceptance. But to me, they go far beyond it. Chosen position of vulnerability, to me, sounds like someone describing love. I'm going to make myself vulnerable to you. I'm going to make my life vulnerable to you. I'm going to feel this. Can you kind of hear that that's what's underneath? I'm going to feel this. I'm going to sign up for this. I'm going to show up sober and just let myself have this thing. There's a radical vulnerability in that. I think that's why Tarbrock says it isn't just acceptance. It's way past that. We have to say it's radical, completely unguarded, wide open. Right? The Dalai Lama says the awakened heart is undefended. He's saying the very same thing. Isn't that beautiful? The awakened heart is undefended. And I think, yes, that's right. That's exactly the voice that was in the lifespan of the Thus Come One. Those are not the words of a defended heart. That's completely undefended. Talk about radical, right? Talk about a chosen position of vulnerability. I'm going to go back and back and back and back and down and in and down and in. How beautiful it is that you chose to sit Zazen this morning. I will sit with it. I don't know what's going to show up. I don't know what's going to show up. That dawn's going to hit that bell, and I have no idea what's going to walk in the door. I got rough ideas. I've done this before, so I'm probably going to think about Star Wars, and my left knee is probably going to hurt, and I'm probably going to get restless, and then I'm probably going to wish, oh, come on, ring the bell. Did you fall asleep back there? There's a certain number of things that I'm kind of expecting. There's a certain familiarity to some of the certain shapes that show up, right? Oh, but I actually don't know, do I? The truth is, I don't know. I know there are new folks here today. I know there are very seasoned veterans here today. But I know all of us were surprised by at least something we saw. I know there's a sense that when we sit down and I'm going to make myself deeply available, deeply vulnerable to the experience of being human, that's an act of courage. And further, I'm going to move beyond just, okay, I'll allow it. That because I am sitting Zazen in the spirit that was taught to me by my teachers and my teachers' teachers, that the highest ideal that I aspire to embody during this 30 minutes is whatever shows up, I will meet it with love. I will put my arm around it. I will feel it. I will see it. I am not it. I'm not going to lose myself in it. I am the observer. I know. But I'm not a dispassionate, clinical observer looking through field glasses at something that's 200 miles away. I'm inside the body, right? Mindfulness of the body in the body is how the Satipatthana Sutta talks about mindfulness. Mindfulness of the breath in the breath. Mindfulness of the emotions in the emotions. Mindfulness of the thoughts in the thoughts. No. You're not going anywhere. You're not it. You're not the thing you're observing, but you're also not distant from it. So now suddenly all of the stuff I make myself vulnerable to, my restlessness, my boredom, my daydreaming, my back pain, my fear, I'll feel it. I'll feel it. I'm going to challenge myself to feel it. I'm going to watch how I want to run. I'm going to watch how thinking about Star Wars is a way of staying away from the thing that hurts so bad. I'm going to go, oh, I see. Okay, Star Wars is cool. Star Wars later. Right now, there's a crying baby that lives inside of my body. And I vow to pick it up. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be with it. This is called compassion. It is not abstract. It is not later. It is not an idea. It is difficult. It is heavy lifting. Spiritually speaking, I think it's one of the hardest things that is ever asked of us because it requires that we feel it. You know the thing you're trying to get away from? The whole thing your life is about trying to avoid? Stop avoiding it for 30 minutes and feel it. Because acceptance, the fact, oh, I know you're there, isn't enough. You got to pick it up. Oh, I accept the fact there's a crying baby in the next room. Not enough. Important step, not enough. Please move toward it. Please open the door. Please walk over to it. Please pick it up. Please be present to your pain in such a way that your presence becomes transformative. That is the promise of Mahayana Buddhism. There's a way you can be with your own violence that transforms it. There's a way you can be with your own sadness that transforms it. There's a way you can hold your fear that transforms it. Because if it's here, it will go out here. All of us know this. So if we really want to transform this thing, if we really want to stop the war, and I know we all do, we have access to it right here. All of us do. I know we all know this. I know we all know this. We all have this inside of us. Every one of us knows. Even if you've just sat Zazen this morning for the very first time in your life and you've got 30 minutes under your belt, you probably have enough to go, oh, wait, there's a Putin that lives inside me. Yeah, there is. There's a Putin that lives inside of everybody. And how I meet him is going to determine exactly what happens and how much of him is going to make its way out into the world. It's easy for me to imagine if I could go back in time 60 years and just hold that kid every single time he cried, the world would be a different place. Yeah, it would. Yes, it would. So because all of us, right, because of the first noble truth, because of the truth of the fire sermon, because of the truth of the human experience we are all part of, because of the truth of suffering that is right here and never absent, and because also of the truth that we are awakeness itself. We're the ones who observe the suffering. We are awakeness. That is our nature, right? We are the undefended heart. That's actually what we've always been. Rediscovering that every moment and coming back to, oh, wait, there's the defense. There's the part of me that doesn't believe. Oh, right, there's the part of me that thinks I still have to get angry in order to stay safe. Go, oh, right, there you are. I understand how you came to be. Hello, humanity. I can meet you. I can be with you. I can hold you with my awakened self. That's okay. There's part of me that's brave enough to be undefended, even if it's for 2 breaths. There's part of me that can be with that afflictive feeling. Of course you can do it. Of course you can, because you do it every day. Because you're a Zen student, because you do it. This is what we do, right? Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here in just a second. What I have been doing, I just want to give you one kind of really practical thing, because I like to have a practical takeaway. I've already offered you the Katagiri line. Chosen position of vulnerability. I hope you can feel the courage that he's implying in that, how brave it is you've been today by doing what you've chosen to do. Even if you were aware of a new moment of suffering in your heart for 3 breaths, that's a big deal. I hope you know that. I hope a chosen position of vulnerability feels like a challenge and an aspiration. It is for me. The way that shows up for me, and this is my practical piece, is because of the news, because of what I'm hearing all of the time, I experience a lot of emotions, strong ones, in relationship to my news feed. I get big ones show up. I'm offering this today because I'm guessing you do too. And generally speaking, it shows up as very strong opinions that I imagine are facts. Oh, so I remind myself of basic Buddhist practice. My thoughts are not facts, they're just thoughts, and they're tied to very strong emotions. So when I find myself spinning about how bad the bad guy is and how much I want bad things to happen to the bad guy, I recognize that's not wisdom. That's not clarity. There's nothing actually true about that. There's certainly nothing undefended or vulnerable about that. Can you feel that that's my defense? Of course it is. So I notice that spinning and I say, okay, so instead of that, I'm going to go down 1 floor in the elevator. But what's the feeling, Boucholon? What are you feeling? And these days, I have no problem confessing to you, mostly anger and fear. They just switch places like this. I'm really angry and then I'm really scared. I'm really scared and I'm really angry. Anger does a really good job of covering that fear. And when it passes, I'm back to being scared again. Sometimes when I'm really still, the fear turns into sad. Okay. So my practical advice, my offering today, my practice point, if you want to call it that, invite yourself to hold that. Instead of spending the time with the spinning, the thoughts, just go, oh, can I allow myself to breathe with my anger for 3 breaths? I wonder what will happen to it if I just hold it and say, it's okay that you're there. I get that you're angry. It's okay. It's fine. You're not broken. You're not bad. You get to be angry. You're a human. Okay, I got you. To see if it changes, because for me, it tends to. I just challenge myself. Hey, can you hold your fear? Of course you're scared. Of course. It's okay. Hold it. Can I meet it with some tenderness? So you can feel the acceptance is in there, right? I accept that it's happening. I'm just urging me. I'm challenging myself. I'm urging and inviting you, challenging you. Let's just lean into not only accepting that it's there, but going, I want to hold you with some tenderness. I want to take my gloves off. I know my warm palms, the warm palms of my heart holding that anger are going to do something to it. I'm not going to make it about out anymore. Putin didn't cause my fear. He doesn't have that kind of power. He didn't. He can't. It comes from in here. It's old. It's karma. I can hold it. I'm big. I can hold it. It's okay. And I can trust when the bell rings, when that sitting is over, when that practice is over, when those even 3 breaths that I did that are over, I can actually feel, I can trust something just happened, something really important, because for one moment on this planet of aching, broken hearts, one person said, I will be with you and hold you, to a feeling. And that matters. That really matters. If those tenets of faith in Soto Zen, that would be one of them. The way you meet your suffering matters. And if somebody had taught that to Vladimir Putin 50 years ago, we'd be living in a different world. And if somebody had taught that to you or to me, I know that I would be a different person. And so the door is open for me now. Here it is. I will not create violence out of my anger. I will instead hold it. The awakened heart is undefended. And I am suggesting that the chosen position of vulnerability that Roshi talked about is in fact love. And when Octavia Butler says acceptance is a good start, but you know there's another place you need to go, that we all know what that place is, because our whole life is about longing for it until we recognize that we are it. And we are it. Everybody wears Buddha's robe. Nobody doesn't. It's just opening up the eyes that recognize that and going, oh yeah, here's the call. I'll do it. Okay. Okay. Right? Then we don't need to say anymore. What should be good advice for me right now? Okay. Thank you very much. I am grateful to you for your attention. I am grateful to you for your practice. Thank you for choosing to do what you did today. And that's as much as you need to hear out of me. My understanding is you guys have conversation now, or discussion, or
Right, we can have a question and answer session. If anybody has questions, comments that they'd like to make, please make yourself heard.
sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, go ahead. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share or offer?
I think I was wondering, could you tell me what I'm probably not going to say it right, the meaning or for rain was again, R-A-I-N?
Oh, yes. It's a lovely thing. Google it. Jack Kornfield teaches it. Tara Brach teaches it. A bunch of teachers in the Insight Vipassana tradition use this. R-A-I-N stands for recognition, acceptance, inquiry, and non-identification. R-A-I-N. So we recognize, oh, I feel anger. I accept that I feel anger. I inquire or investigate. Hey, what is that anger about? I wonder what's going on there. I wonder what that goes back to. I wonder how it came to be. How does it show up in my body? Blah, 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 blah. We investigate it, right? And then N, the non-identification, is just the traditional, it's a very traditional Theravadan teaching on that which you can observe you are not, which you heard me say. So I am not the thing that I'm in relationship to. It's not part of self. I don't own it. I am the witness of it. So R-A-I-N, recognize, accept, inquire, non-identify.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a very cool thing. Again, it's not a Zen thing particularly, but so what? It's good, so use it. Other folks.
Just a short comment from me. This is Pam.
Hey, Pam.
Hi. I'm constantly amazed at how many things in practice are repeated endlessly. And then suddenly after years, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. And your talk about vulnerability and undefended is kind of like that for me today. And I was thinking of also the title to James Ford's book, If You're Lucky, Your Heart Will Break, which maybe, I haven't read the book, so just going off the title. But, this is an aspect of practice that, it's, I don't know, I guess it just hasn't been apparent, but it's so that's what, that's all just to say, I really appreciate your talk on this topic. There's a new focus.
Thank you, Pam. I resonate 100% with everything you said. I can hear this. I know we're not alone here, right? We hear the same thing over and over. I mean, geez Louise, folks, Zen is the most repetitive bloody thing that ever was. It's the same thing over and over and over. I mean, you just say the same thing in 1,000 different ways. And isn't that weird how you've heard the same thing 1,000 different ways, but the 1,001st time you hear it, on that day, at that time, in that person's voice, all of a sudden you go, oh, is that what they've been talking about?
Right.
And the connection you're making, Pam, that you're giving words to is I think it's counterintuitive. I think that's why that actually takes a long time for us to actually get. The central ideal of a major world religion is compassion. And what that actually means is you will be with and feel your suffering. And I just don't think we know what to do with that. Like, no, we're supposed to get away from it. We're supposed to make it go away. That's the whole point of everything, is to make it go away. And they're like, oh, no, you don't. No wonder it has to be repeated 1,000 times. We're really weird. It's beautiful, but holy cow, it takes a long time to really get what vulnerability implies and the transformative power of awakened heart. So I'm with you, Pam.
Thank you.
Other folks.
Anybody else have a question, comment?
This is Andrew. If I can go one more time. Sorry. So I just wanted to say, first I wanted to give you a compliment. You're a really good speaker. You pulled my attention in, so I appreciate that. But then I also like your view or your definition on the enlightened mind or the heart. I believe you said that the enlightened mind or the heart is someone who runs towards suffering as opposed to straying from it, like trying to help people heal. I really like that you put that, or at least that's how I took it when you said it.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. The way, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. That's nice. Yes, the way that this instruction was given to me by my teacher, the way this instruction was ultimately given to me by my teacher was a little unconventional, but what he did is he said, so down here at base, you're a mammal, Boucholon. You know that, right? Like your consciousness, you inhabit a mammal. You're a warm-blooded mammal. I was like, yes, okay, thank you. This is a weird conversation. What is wrong with you, weird Zen teacher? You're a mammal. I'm talking to a mammal today. Yes. I was like, okay, yes. And he said, so the nature of a mammal is if it hurts, it will go away from the thing that hurts. Like that's in the DNA of the body that you occupy, to go the other way. That's how the mammal stays alive. And I'm like, yes, okay, thank you, good, I know that. And then he said, you also have, on top of that, because you happen to be a Homo sapiens mammal, they're much more complicated, they're really rascals, all of us know this. You also have a thing called an ego self, which Zen spends a lot of time on, right? The human ego self. We also know its primary relationship with suffering is, I will go the other way. Comfort, good. Pain, bad. Fame, good. Shame, bad. Popularity, good. Being a loser, bad. You can feel it, right? We call these the 8 worldly winds. We like half of them and we hate the other half of them. And so we're always trying to get half to show up and we're always trying to make the other half leave, right? Here's your human nature. So he says, so far we have a mammal who says no to pain, and we have an ego being who says no to pain. And this is where he gets very zen-y. He says, and you are also a spiritual aspirant, which means you know you have another nature. And this is the nature that the Zen scriptures appeal to. This is the voice of the Buddha that we just heard in the lifespan of the Thus Come One. This is the voice of the Heart Sutra. This is the voice of the Metta Sutra. This is the voice of the Dharma that says you have another nature. We call this Buddha nature, awakening nature, awakened, undefended heart nature, love. It doesn't matter what you call it. You are that, right? You are awakening itself. You are enlightenment. You also have this third nature that's way up here. And that nature of yours has exactly the opposite response to suffering that your ego and your body does. It will rush toward it every time. And what he explained is that's why when we study the lives of enlightened beings and the lives of saints and the lives of, right, the great teachers, they always spent their lives rushing towards suffering and ministering to those who were in pain. It's what love does. It's literally what it does. So to wake up to this part of me and to meet these other parts of me that are in such pain all the time, with acceptance, with love, with compassion, with wisdom, that's the enlightened activity. That's the transformational potential of Buddhist practice. So I'm riffing now again, but that's the way it was given to me. And I just try as hard as I can to explain what was given to me and to pass that on. It made a lot of sense the way it was explained to me. And I think that's probably why I tend to teach it that way. So I hope that's of help.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
If nobody else has any questions, then I'd like to deeply thank you for being a bodhisattva coming to us today, giving a great Dharma talk. I have a couple little announcements. One is to remind you that next week, daylight savings time changes on Sunday morning. And also that we're going to have a day of Zazen Kai, which is sort of a shorter version of Sesshin practice for you, anyone who's interested. And that'll be Saturday, March 19th. So look on the website, you can see more information about it. Anything else I've forgotten? I don't think so. So we'll have a closing chant. And then we'll have tea and conversation.
Call and response. The many beams are numberless, bowing to carry them across.
The many beings are numberless, bowing to carry them across.
Greed, anger, and ignorance rise endlessly, vowing to cut off the mind road.
Greed, anger, and ignorance rise endlessly, vowing to cut off the mind road.
Dharma gates are countless, vowing to wake to them all.
Dharma gates are countless, bowing to wake to them all.
Buddha's way is all embracing, vowing to follow through.
Buddha's way is all embracing, bowing to follow through.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have tea and conversation. I wish you could join us, Boucholon, but maybe another time.
Maybe another time. Have a beautiful Sunday. If there's anything I can do to be of support to anybody here's practice, please let me know. I am very easy to find online. So blessings to all of you. Hope to see you in person someday.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.